Law Committee. First item of business is to take roll.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Kuhn,
Here.
Reedy,
Here.
Feeney,
Here.
LaBrilliere. Here. McLaughlin.
Here.
Spotsky. Here. Ricard.
Present.
Bergdorf is excused, and Whalen.
Here.
8 present, Mr. Chairman.
Awesome, thank you. First item of business is approving the previous meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those? All right, motion by Mr. Reedy,
Second.
second by Dr. McLaughlin. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Second item of business. We're going to go a little bit out of order here. We're going to go to item number 6. And I think Judge Eric? No, did I do this wrong?
No, that's fine. He's just looking for him.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Getting a little confusion here.
We're good to go?
Good to go.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here today.
So item 6 is amending resolution number 301 from 2020 regarding the Second Regional Immigration Assistance Center grant.
Correct. So, in detail, our grant was a 3-year grant. All the regional immigration assistance centers during that time period were required to go beyond their contractual period. And we had a 1-year extension at no cost, meaning that the state would not provide any additional funding, but we were still to provide services throughout that year, exhausting any funding that went through our contract. During that time period, our REACT incurred, went beyond our contractual awards. And so this is here just to make us whole, and in the amount of $35,000 to make up for that 1-year period where our contract was not funded. Now hold for any questions or?
Does anybody have any questions?
I'll move it.
All right, got a motion? Feeney? Second, Spotsky? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. You have a good evening. Stay dry.
Thank you. Now number 7. Okay. Number 7, which I think we're gonna do number 7 through 18 together. But so should I read number 7? Do I have to read these? Okay, we're not gonna read it.
But we need a motion to approve and second.
Do that now or do that after? Okay. Can I have a motion to group items 17 through 18?
7 through 18, I'll make that motion.
7 through 18. All right, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so they're grouped.
No.
All right, now, Judge Herrick.
Okay. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing us to appear before you this evening. There are 12 items that Public Defender's Office has on the agenda tonight. I'm here with Keith Bellato, who's our fiscal officer, in case you have any questions for him. There's one new item, and then there are 11 ministerial corrections, if you will, to previous matters that have resulted in substantial aid to the Albany County Public Defender's Office, the Conflict Defender, and the Assigned Counsel Plan going back to 2013. These are distribution grants. They're 3-year grants, no cost to the county. It's all revenue, and for the acceptance of the grants over the period of years, there were no requests for legislative action initially presented to any committee of the county legislature. So this is a ministerial correction. We are now following the legislative protocol and procedure, and since Keith came on board in 2022, we have been following that procedure of doing an RLA to request permission to to go into contract with ILS, the state agency, for these grants. And this is just a corrective action to retroactively allow for the approval, the acceptance, and the use of the distribution grant money. The funding that we have received over the years is contained in every year in the budget. It's listed under indigent legal funds, DIST distributions, and has been, open and known to the public and to the legislature. It's just that we didn't follow this procedure going way back before Keith and I were even employees of the county. So this is a ministerial correction.
Okay, Ms. Whalen?
So about $4.7 million was released over 10 years in grant money without the legislature voting for it. And I'm wondering how that happened. Like, it's been fixed, obviously, and it's a ministerial error, but it seems like these errors have been cropping up. I think also, it sounds like a similar situation that might have happened at the DA's office, like state grant money is being released without the legislature voting on it, which is required by law. So how can we fix this so that it doesn't happen again? Or what have you done since you've come aboard to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Since I've come on board, I came on board back in May of 2022. We just have procedures and protocols in place now. I have a very detailed tracking system that I use and that management and budget can look at when they need to. And it has all the steps required for when grant money is offered to our office by ILS and the state, and it tracks it all the way through the process of presenting it here in the committee in the proper fashion, and then to the full ledge, and then going into our contract management system for signature by the county exec, back to ILS for their signature, and then tracking back to us, and then being uploaded for storage by the law department. So all the steps are now defined clearly with dates so that there's nothing that can be missed as long as we're using this new procedure.
So my understanding of this is pretty non-existent or, just basic, like you get a check from the state and it's a grant, where does it go? Whose account does it go into? Your account, the budget office, human resources, like how do you get, once the grant is released from the state and it is earmarked for the public defenders and the alternate defenders and indigent services offices, where does that money go? It doesn't go to your bank account, it goes somewhere else.
We have to, for the work that's done and the salaries that are being funded, we have to put in claims to ILS, to the state, and then that check comes back to management and budget.
So if I
And
can
then what?
speak to this
Yeah.
for 1 second.
Uh-huh.
So it's not that this was never approved by the legislature, it's the individual grants were not presented to the legislature. The office would get their, it's similar to a
Right,
block
for
grant, they would get their
approval, for
award, we wouldn't apply, they would just say, here's the amount of money you're gonna get. They would get that during the budget cycle, they would put that into the budget, which you would then approve. So the lines were all in the budget already. The wire would then flow from the state, the comptroller's office would see, okay, public defender gets this piece, alternate public defender gets this piece, because it was all approved in the budget, in the budgetary process. It just wasn't done via budget amendment through the ledge. So, to that point, this is the correct way, this is why we're doing it this way, but I don't think any of us can speak to our predecessors on
Is this
why
what
it wasn't
happened?
initially done that way.
Is this what happened in the DA's office?
Not at all.
Same thing?
Not at all.
Different?
No.
Okay, I have another question. You know how, I don't know if the state, when the state has like a granting department, let's say. So are we going to be, do they rate counties for grants, kind of like bonds with towns? Like you have a rating and then your rating can drop if you're like really naughty or misbehaved or you're doing something not, you're not doing a great job in the towns, sometimes your rating will drop. For grants, does the state have any kind of rating? Will this impact our rating?
I doubt
The
it.
state doesn't
No.
care that like they gave us grant money and we didn't go and get it approved by the legislature? We don't have to write them a letter and say, oh, we're sorry, please don't,
Not to my knowledge, as
Don't
far as
sanction
I'm
us or-
concerned, they
or-
view it as it was approved via the budget.
okay. All right, okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Great, any other questions?
Yes, thank you. One, I just wanted to go on record, this should have come before the Finance Committee. If there's ever an issue that should have come before the Finance Committee, it would be this one. Ministerial errors, that's a euphemism. money was spent that didn't follow the law. Isn't that what happened?
No.
No.
And I can speak to this. It
Go
was
ahead.
merely an internal procedure that we have at the county that was not followed exactly correctly. As they indicated, it was fully in the budget at all times. And so there was no violation of the law at all.
The legislature is required to approve state grants. You're saying it was subsequently approved when it was placed in the budget, but that's not what we typically do. We approve these state grants ourselves, and we didn't do it for the last 11 years. There needs to be a reckoning for that, because this is a substantial violation of the way we do business.
What law are you, I mean, these are
We're-
somewhat, hold on, these are somewhat inflammatory words that you're using, so
Well,
let's
yeah.
pressure test it a little
Well,
bit.
they should
What-
be
no,
inflammatory.
Hold on. What law are you saying was violated?
We have to approve state grants. It's typically, we do it every year.
Right, but I'm asking
But
you
these
to be
grants didn't-
specific. You're saying a law was violated.
I'm saying-
What law?
The law was for us to approve our state grants. That's what we do.
Well, that's actually not a law. We don't have to actually approve grants at all. The legislature does not.
Then why do we do it?
Because we approve the contract. So that is something that we have traditionally done. It's not a law. It's something that we have traditionally done.
You bet we have.
Yes, but it's
I haven't
not a
heard
law.
an explanation why we didn't follow the process that we follow every year on state grants, and we haven't done it for 11 years, and we're saying that's a ministerial error? It's an error if it happens once, but it happens over an 11-year period. There needs to be a serious inquiry about how this could happen.
Well, I think they've given adequate explanation for what happened. This started before either of them was in county service, and they were unaware up to this point that it happened. As soon as they became aware, which was in recent times, within less than a month of speaking with Judge Herrick last month, it was all submitted and here for your approval. So I'm not sure what more could have been done
Well,
to correct
first of
the
all, why was
issue.
this brought to our attention now after 11 years? What was the launch point for this?
I believe someone in my office noticed that a request was made in due course. I believe they followed the rule that we have had. They requested to have legislative approval. At that point, we noticed that we hadn't had approval before that and brought it to their attention, and that's when it all came to light. So
Well, you just conceded that we didn't follow our procedures. And the question is, why did it take 11 years to uncover that?
I can't speak to that because the absence, not knowing what's not happening is kind of it's a knowledge of an absence, so we can't speak to that. But I think it's being corrected now in all due haste. The judge has made every effort to get it done as quickly as possible. We have voluminous materials before the committee, and it's being corrected.
Well, what I would like is a report identifying how this happened, how it was discovered, and how all these agencies, what role did the Department of Budget play in this? What role did our payroll department issues checks? What role did the controller play in this? We need a report that delves into those issues, because this is a pretty substantial mistake that occurred over an 11-year period, and it's very troubling.
Well, I can certainly reach out to the executives department about that, to the extent that that is possible. As I've stated, a lack of knowledge about something that was not occurring would be hard to prove or disprove, so it kind of is what it is, but we'll see what we can come up with.
Do we know if there are other instances where this occurred, where we typically approve state grants and we didn't for other departments? Do we know that, or can
The
we investigate
legislature would
that?
only know of what's coming for it, so we don't know what we don't know.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Understood.
Oh, I have another question. Would it be possible to write a memo to remind all the agencies that they should be doing this in case they?
Well, I think in connection with this incident, we have had conversations with the executive about that, so I expect that they will do whatever is needed in course with their executive departments. That's not something typically the legislature would do, but we can certainly reach out and make that request.
Yep.
My understanding though, this money was in the budget, we approved the budget, right, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the money being approved, there was nothing wrong with that. Great, thank you.
Oh, yes, there was. I mean, we didn't do it the way we typically do it, and to suggest otherwise is simply not true.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Just a quick question, Judge. So I just want to understand this. You just found out about this a month ago, is that what you said?
We found out about this very recently. I don't know the
Okay.
exact date.
A month, 2 months,
Yes.
whatever, recently, that's fine. So if you found out recently, as soon as you determined that there was an error, you corrected it, and
Absolutely.
so I think that's all you're asking for, is to correct the error.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to prove, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, no further questions.
I just have a few more questions. So the money that, all these monies, or the money that was spent the last 10 years, it was mostly for fringe salaries and benefits for counsels, attorneys, right?
Most of it was for salaries and fringe for the attorneys and support staff.
And that was all in the budget
Yes.
each year?
Yeah.
You went back and cross-referenced and made sure,
Yes.
like you saw it? Even though you weren't here, somebody went back and did that? So it's all?
It never would have been able to be paid if it wasn't in the budget.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So this is money that was in the budget, it was spent, but the issue is that the acceptance of these grant funds didn't specifically come before the legislature, and that's the convention, is that every agency, when it's going to accept state grant funds, comes to us, asks for our authorization for the agency to accept those funds.
And contract with
And
whatever.
and contract with, in this particular instance, while it was in the budget, that step was neglected for the past 10 years with respect to this thing, right?
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't
The
seem
length of
like
this-
quite the scandal you're making it
Whoa,
out
whoa,
to
whoa,
be.
it's 11 years that we were doing the wrong thing. And by the
Right.
way, the state grant issue just came up with the district attorney's office, and we had an outside counsel look into it. So the idea that we don't adhere strictly to our guidelines with respect to state grants is very important. We just witnessed that. Well, this took place over an 11-year period. So anyone doesn't think this is a serious matter is not following the budgeting process carefully. It's a serious matter, we should recognize it. And I'd like to see some special report that takes A through Z, so every legislator can read exactly what happened and what was done.
I would add that the New York State Comptroller's Office reviews every expenditure by ILS, the state agency that has funded these distribution grants, and they review it before the distribution requests or offers are approved by the state.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything on this?
Can I just say one thing?
Certainly.
Conflating this with what happened with the district attorney is not a fair equivalent scenario. That was an issue where the DA, using state grant money, had given himself a bonus that exceeded the charter as well as state law. That money was in the budget, but it was also in violation of what his salary is capped at statutorily. And I might add, it was quickly identified by the county HR department, and we all know the rest of the story. So this doesn't sound like a scandalous thing. The money was in the budget. You cannot spend a dime outside of the budget process. So, everything that you had dispensed with was something that the legislature had included in the budget process.
That's correct.
So I understand that this is a better process, and I'm glad that we're doing it in this more defined way that we apparently is the practice across the board, but just want to make that point.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to move it.
Can I just rebut that if I could, Mr. Chairman?
I bet,
There's a
motion on the table.
We have a second?
I'd like to rebut that.
oh, no,
there's a
we're gonna
motion
move on.
We're moving on.
We're gonna move
It's not
on.
even on the
I
committee.
don't want to rebut.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. All right, Vicky seconded it, Ms. Plasky seconded it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is public hearing on proposed local law number C for 2024, the local law of the County of Albany, New York, criminalizing rental fraud. All right, so this is the public hearing. somebody want to,
Yeah,
Sam?
I'm here.
Mr. Fine, want to talk about this?
Yeah, basically what this law does is it criminalizes the act where someone rents out a property that they don't have ownership over or any written authorization from the owner to rent. So this is a practice that, fraud practice that impacts people in Albany County.
My only question with this, is this parroting existing legislation that exists somewhere else?
Majority Council, do you have a?
It's similar to legislation from counties downstate.
Okay. The one part that I read that is this thing about prohibiting using photos that are false, out of date, or otherwise do not accurately represent the current state of the permanent fixtures and features of the property.
Yeah, that's to address.
A lot of that goes on in the real estate market.
But there's been a particular problem as of late where people are giving photos that are of entirely different apartments, renting out an apartment, and then doing a bait and switch with an apartment that may or may not even exist, but if it does, it's not the apartment that was identified in the photos.
Okay.
That's what that's intended to.
So it's not like just staging things?
No, it's not intended to reach like, different furniture and that sort of thing. It's intended to, where you're purposely trying to fraudulently portray a different apartment or an apartment that, as it existed before the roof fell in or something like that.
Okay. All right, so this is to send this to public hearing, not to send the legislation itself out of committee.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything they want to talk about?
Make a motion to move it.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, all right, that carries. Thank you, Mrs. Fine. Item number 3, local law number,
Table pending public hearing.
number 3 is tabled? All
As
right.
is 5.
Okay, so number 3 and number 5 are tabled pending public hearing. Number 4 is local law number B for 2024, local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending chapter 288 of the Albany County Code to ban speed contests and stunt behavior. This is what we had the public hearing on.
Here.
Mr. Melody, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, again, an opportunity to add a piece to Chapter 288 of the Albany County Code to increase the penalties for stunt driving, for the demonstration shows that we see. If you're a Facebook person, the TikTok and Reels, these demonstration shows, all the spectators, people doing wheelies and racing, the wheelies down the streets, the ATVs, the dirt bike groups running through the city of Albany, and any other of those kind of disruptive behaviors that can be problematic at night, or cause distractions, distract the drivers, and injuries to others. It was already existing, but the penalties were pretty low, so this increases the penalties. $500 for the first fine, for the first offense, $1,500 for a second and subsequent offenses, and it also allows up to 15 days in jail. To hopefully give a little more meat to the courts to do what they need to do, and police a little more incentive to maybe to address some of this. They're not gonna chase these guys down likely, but if they know there's a person that's doing it regularly, there's now incentive to go after that person and that's a repeat offender and have a little meat to the penalties.
What did you think about the comments last night about the penalties being too lenient?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's understandable. She was talking about California, Suffolk County. They're not Albany County, so it's just like cost of living kind of things. But you also have to get to a point where if you're going to make the fines so high that nobody's going to be able to pay them, then you're going to get somebody into a whole another court system battle where you're trying to collect the monies and chasing them down for that. The intent is really to discourage this activity without breaking somebody or getting them into a whole court cycle. Get them in, give them a penalty that's important, and go from there. Could have been stronger for sure, but we thought this was a good place to go with it from where it was to make it manageable.
Okay, well.
Thank you. I can't remember if I read this or not, or if we were talking about it last night, but is there a penalty that revokes the vehicle?
That's not in there.
Did Carol say there was in other states?
Some places have, yes.
Because that would really, is there a reason why we can't do that? Is
It's
it?
not, I don't think you couldn't. I think there's this discussion like
After.
this is a place to start, and do you get into the, when you start getting into the personal property stuff. They're committing a crime, but not really. Like if somebody's gonna go ahead and steal, do a bank robbery or buy a shell insurance in in law allow you to confiscate their property. But there's more nuisance stuff and then taking stuff away, so it's something that could be added later on, but we felt this was a good place to start.
I just think it would be a
Pounded for that.
good way to stop this stunt behavior from happening. If you just,
You have to
Take
get it
away
again.
the vehicle.
The problem is you have to get it. A lot of times when the complaints come in, let's be honest, the complaints come in, you know, the people is already gone by the time the cops get there, they're not gonna go through chases down in the street. So, you know, but this, the
Yeah.
stupid part for these people is that they're adding, you know, they're putting this, what's making this proliferate is the social media, the TikToks and the YouTube, so they're putting it all out there, so now we do have the video evidence, so it's able to be able to go out there and find them and address it that way.
Yeah, one second. So if it rose to the level of reckless driving, that's a misdemeanor,
Yeah.
and that you risk impoundment, I think.
I would, probably, yeah. 'Cause these are not-
For
yeah.
crimes, you
Right.
you can have.
This
an
is sort of
impact.
a level below that, so we're not
It's a civil
impounding
penalty.
quite yet, but if somebody was going, so they're to.
Which that's already exists, so that, if
Right.
it gets that misdemeanor or more level,
Right.
that already exists.
All right.
because it's tough
Miss-
enough to impound someone in New
Yeah.
York State, but we can impound their vehicle, that's good.
Yeah.
No one cares about their vehicle.
We're gonna, like, when it
Impound
gets to
the
the criminal
vehicle.
part, we're going to the civil side of it at this point.
Miss.
No one's ever going to jail in New York State for
Lillard.
15 days.
Lillard. I'm
So
sorry.
this is going back to last night's public hearing. I also thought her comment regarding spectators was interesting
Yeah.
add, because that's part of the fascination is the gathering of a group of people to experience the whole spectacle. So I was wondering if there was any.
It's already,
Is this participate
it does
is the
touch
word?
touch on that. There's two parts of it. Once you do injure somebody, now you're into criminal law, so that's another whole area that we're not addressing. It's not our, or to address it or exists. And then this does allow the person, causes the person to be responsible for injuries and damage to.
No, I was just wondering for the gathering to witness, the
for
gathering
this- to
for
find
the
the
event.
spectator?
Yes, I thought that
No,
was
we
an
didn't-
interesting
we didn't-
comment that she made.
I don't think that was really considered per se. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
that's tough.
who are you gonna go after, the guy racing down the street or the guy standing around watching it, you know? It's usually crowds of, hundreds of people. Now you have, it's gonna be looked at as a police state kind of thing, it just drives people off the street, who was just walking by and who was actually watching, who was walking down to the, go get some at the deli and now you got caught up because you're near the crowd.
Yeah, that would be weird to penalize people for watching something.
Yeah.
So,
I understand the reasoning, but it just becomes more than I think, we have bigger issues in the county that our cops are interested in.
It's not like
But
they're
this is a
selling
good-
tickets either.
Right.
Like you're not selling a ticket.
We
can't
try to
really
get
prove
something
it.
that's manageable.
Gotcha. All right, anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion for this? This would be to send this proposed local law out of committee.
I'll move it favorably.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, so, then I think that's it. Is that it?
Oh,
Hey,
I contacted you in error earlier. I apologize.
I just saw them.
It's on there, but it's tabled pending public hearing. It was moved out last month.
Oh, okay. No big deal.
okay, motion to adjourn? Second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? All right, great, thanks, everybody.